Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a tale as old as time. It's a story about a man and a woman. And two other men. And a puppet. And a cease and desist letter. And a millionaire pastor. A trip to Antarctica. Two other men. And the flat earth. And you know what, come to think about it? It's perhaps not as familiar a tale as I thought it was. Let's start at the beginning with this guy.
Don't believe anything I say.
Okay, well, don't worry, Dave. That won't be a problem at all. Now, this is Flat Earth Dave. If you don't know him, Google him. He's a very, very, very prominent flat earther. He's all over the internet. And he has a problem. And his problem is, in the past, he has been very, very open about saying that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica just simply wouldn't work on a flat Earth. Therefore, if one is seen, then the Earth can't be flat.
The 24-hour sun in Antarctica doesn't work on a flat Earth. It works in the north, but not in the south. Well, guess what? There's thousands of videos of the 24-hour sun from Alaska and Norway and, very northern places. You can book vacations and go and watch it in June, right? But in December, the same thing should happen in Antarctica, and it doesn't.
So as you've heard there, despite having never been to Antarctica, Flat Earth Dave is telling us there is never a 24-hour sun. Millionaire pastor Will Duffy thought, I'm not having that, hold my beer, and he organised a trip to take flat earthers down to Antarctica. And Flat Earth Dave?
Don't believe anything I say.
Well, he was invited, but unfortunately, I think maybe he was a little bit busy. He had to decline. What a shame that is for Flat Earth Dave and his followers, that he didn't get to go and back up his claims for himself. What a real shame. Anyway, one of the other biggest internet flat earthers, Jeronism, did accept the flight, and he saw what we all knew he was going to see. The 24-hour sun.
Sometimes you are wrong in life.
And he was wrong, and he admitted it, and I've got to apologise for the piano music being over that clip. I don't have the clip without the piano music anymore. If I could find it, I would use it. I think Jeronism is brilliant, and here's why. Well, since then, Jeronism has acknowledged his role in recruiting people to the Flat Earth, and he believes that Flat Earth is an extremely damaging place to be, and he's put out an awful lot of content trying to convince people why they should not listen to old Jeronism, and they should listen to new Jeronism and walk away from Flat Earth. But despite having declined the free offer to go to Antarctica, our friend Flat Earth Dave didn't seem convinced that Jeronism had actually seen the 24-hour sun. He thought that perhaps he could come up with alternative explanations, and obviously Flat Earth Dave is an extremely intelligent and well-researched person. So the explanations that Flat Earth Dave would give in the following weeks would absolutely not be off-the-wall bonkers. They would be completely sensible suggestions. Like this.
So there's one of the technologies. This is called a dragon fire, and you can shoot energy up into the sky and literally create a plasma ball.
And this is a trip. This is
So just seeing this stuff. I mean, if I cut out the background, you wouldn't know what you were looking at. If I said it was the sun, you would see the sun, right? Look at this. Look at that. Doesn't that look a little bit like a sun? Doesn't that look like a beam, with the sun? Very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there was at different beams projecting this, like these are very, very strange sun flares. This could be an extraterrestrial orb that we don't understand, or this could just be another hoax with some directed energy, a plasma ball being projected in the sky. Looks a little bit like a sun. So if here's Union Glacier, their camp is somewhere in here, you could have one location here, and it beams the sun around this beam, and then when it gets over here, there's a handoff to another projector.
Now, I, of course, am on the fence here. I don't know. Is it more likely that when they were in Antarctica, they just saw the 24-hour sun circling the sky? Or is it more likely that they saw some kind of possible UFO or directed energy plasma ball being aimed at a giant blue fabric stretched across their heads? I mean, obviously, both options are equally likely. I'll let you make up your own mind about that. But one person that wasn't convinced by Flat Earth Dave's UFO or plasma ball aimed at blue fabric stretched across the sky explanation was Patricia Steer, who at that point was the co-host of Mark Sargent's podcast. Now, the screen grab you just saw there was from episode 500 of Mark Sargent's show. This screen grab is from episode 501, and we'll notice Patricia Steere is missing. That is because Patricia, along with two other prominent flat earthers, Paul on the Plane and Robbie Davidson, have contemplated the 24-hour sun observation in Antarctica and decided that the Earth can't be flat after all, and they've walked away. And Mark Sargent here is addressing it on his show.
Okay. So on Saturday, Celebrate Truth posted a headstone in the snow for Flat Earth, and the text goes something like this.
Well, it goes something like this. After much thought, research and consideration, I've come to a new conclusion about the shape of the Earth. I was wrong. I am sorry. And of course, that is where the story ends, because obviously Mark Sargent, David Weiss and Marty Leeds, they decided to wish these three flat earthers well in their new beliefs, and they waved them goodbye from Flat Earth without any controversy whatsoever.
And Patricia, if you're listening, nothing but love on my side. Just hoping that whatever you're going through, I just feel like we're all going through something, right? It's okay to question things. It's okay to leave. It's okay to change your mind. That's a part of this whole journey, but seeking the truth to me is still more important than anything. Right. And if that means people have to go about it in a roundabout way, then I'm going to try my best to not judge, because that's not my role and that's nobody's role here.
Only kidding, that was DJ Curious. He does seem like a really nice guy, by the way. From what I've seen of him, I don't know him well. But it seems that Dave, Marty and Mark weren't too interested in letting our flat earthers or ex-flat earthers walk off into the sunset without some kind of controversy. First up is Marty Leeds, who gives his take on the 24-hour sun observation.
I wanted nothing to do with this. I didn't give a f*** about Will Duffy. I didn't give a f*** about, you could tell me that the sun is doing dancing, with maracas and like Mexican polka music is jamming and the sun's doing this in Antarctica, and I would still be like, well, it's flat. I don't give a shit what they saw.
So that's Marty's take on the 24-hour sun observation, and I did present that to my team of professional astronomers, and they have reassured me, so I can pass on to you, Marty, that it is extremely unlikely that they will ever take a picture of the sun dancing with maracas, or even claim that the sun dances with maracas. So if you were really, really concerned about that, that's probably not on the bingo card for at least the next 100 years. I don't think we'll be seeing that. Okay, now that was Marty's take on the observation, but in this video, he also decided to speculate on Patricia Steere and why Patricia Steere might have left Flat Earth. And this is where things really start to go south for everybody involved.
Then she gets involved in this crypto thing, and she's like, oh, this is a good opportunity. Maybe I'll take that $150,000 I have and I'll turn it into $1.5 million or something. And then she gets involved with some of these guys that she trusts and knows. Paul on the Plane, what a great guy. Hey, he even contacted me to say, hey, you want to get involved in some... I'm like, no, thanks though, Paul. And then they start doing their podcast, and they're gunning, and they made money in Hex, so it's like, well, why wouldn't we make money in Axion? And then things start going and going and going. And next thing you know, hey guys, guess what? The thing that you were doing is actually illegal. And one violation would be 25 years in prison. I don't know if this is what happened. But I could imagine a scenario in which somebody from the SEC or the government calls up Patricia Steere and says, hey, honey, you know that crypto thing you were involved in? One violation from the feds, let alone anybody that you got to sign that contract that could sue you now. One violation is 25 years in prison. You know those vegan cats you have? We'll throw the book at you. By the time you get out of prison, they'll be dead. You'll be broke. You won't have any money. You know those nice little, those vinyl LPs you got on the back wall and shit like that? Nah, those will all be sold in auction. The nice car that you just bought, No, you're going to wear an orange jumpsuit. You won't be able to have your vegan whatever. You'll be eating shit in prison. You'll be wearing an orange jumpsuit. No more makeup for you. You'll be a wrinkly old bitch by the time you get out, and no one will give a f about you, and you'll have nothing. You sure you still believe in the flat earth? Patricia, is that what happened?
Now that reminds me, I do have to make a video on Christian pastors and how they are such nice people with amazing levels of tolerance, acceptance, and ability to turn the other cheek when faced with adversity. They really are lovely people. So thanks for that reminder, Marty. So in case you didn't pick up here, he's speculating He's making a question, perhaps. Was Patricia Steere and Robbie and Paul, were they involved in something illegal? And is that why they were pressured into leaving the flat earth community? It's quite the speculation, isn't it? Now, you won't find the video containing that speculation on Marty's channel anymore. That'll become important when we get into the cease and desist letter later on, but you will find it on Flat Earth Dave's channel, or one of his channels, the Moon, Sun and Zodiac app channel. And on that video, Dave pins this to the beginning of the chat. Can anyone come up with a better explanation as to why these three all switched their decade-old flat earth position with the exact same script on the same day? Would love to hear one. I'm struggling to come up with one. And if we look at the replies underneath, people are buying into this. The money, their lives were threatened, according to a relative that posted on Facebook. Well, I'm sure we're all interested in hearing what your nan has got to say on the situation. Tale as old as time. I used that at the beginning of this video. I swear I didn't take it from him. The part of the Borg Collective. And so on. Apparently Jerin and Whitsit are in it too. Yes. Threats and bribery. And it goes on. Now, you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with that? People are allowed to speculate and ask questions. That's perfectly legal. And people obviously are also allowed to give their opinions on those speculations. For example, here's a speculation.
Could clouds be made of salt?
And here's my opinion. No. What an unbelievably stupid thing to say. However, and this is only my personal opinion, I do not think it is a good idea to make speculative comments or questions online about whether people have been involved in criminal activity, because in some states in America, defamation per se civil suits are permissible. Washington being one of those states, which I do believe is where Mark Sargent lives. I wonder if that'll be relevant later on. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Now, in a per se civil suit, if you accuse somebody of being a criminal or doing something illegal, then damages are automatically assumed to have been caused. In other words, if a defamation suit is brought, Robbie, Paul, and Patricia will not have to prove damages. They are simply assumed to have been caused. Now, in case you are a little bit confused about what's going on here, the speculation that Marty was providing on his stream is that there was some sort of violation, criminal illegal act that they found themselves performing in relation to a cryptocurrency called Axion. In other words, an SEC violation. Now, fortunately for Mark Sargent, he has never, ever, 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 ever said that Robbie, Paul, and Patricia were ever involved in anything illegal or that there's any ongoing case against them, because he does live in Washington, and that would be really bad for him. So it's really, really good news for everybody, him included, that he has never, ever said such a thing.
In their case, by the way, there's a wonderful little thing I could give you, the Axion disclosure thing, where they said, by the way, they closed it down 4 years ago because they realized they were doing something illegal. That case is still open.
Oh dear. Perhaps he might need to wind those kind of comments in my opinion. Now, I would like to thank the Binall of America podcast again for allowing us to use these clips, and it is an amazing podcast. Again, it's linked in the description. Please go and check them out. Really, really quality podcast along the lines of Coast to Coast AM, Jim Harrell podcast, the old Almost Unbelievable podcast. It's brilliant. Go and check it out. Now, Mark Sargent has obviously said something. You'll have to judge for yourself when he uses the words, they realized they were doing something illegal and the case is still ongoing. You'll have to decide if he means they realized they were doing something illegal and there is a case still ongoing. But in the meantime, if any of you want to check whether Robbie Davidson, Paul on the Plane, and Patricia Steere have been involved in what we will call SEC violations, then all you've got to do is go to the US Securities and Exchange Commission and input their names. And what this will do is it will bring you information about any individual who's been named as a defendant due to these violations. Here's Patricia Steere's name. I'll hit submit. You can also, and obviously no results have been returned. She has absolutely not ever been involved in anything like that. You can put in Robbie Davidson's name and Paul on the Plane. I know his name and I've looked it up. I don't know how public he is with putting his name out there, so I am not going to mention it in case he gets a bit annoyed and thinks I've doxed him. So there we go. They are completely innocent. So perhaps it's unfortunate for Mark Sargent that he lives in one of these states where per se civil defamation suits are permissible, because obviously if damages are assumed and they don't need to be proven, that could be extremely costly. But luckily for us, Mark does lots and lots of research. He doesn't say things based off pure speculation. He will have a reason for saying everything he says. He doesn't like to play to the court of public opinion or anything like that, which would obviously show a reckless disregard for the truth, which would be classed as malice. No, he does lots and lots of really hard research.
And I mean, I don't want to be confrontational or whatever, but you're throwing around a lot of accusations here about these people getting paid off with absolutely no proof that they've been paid off, besides Patricia Steer buying a new car. So let's dial it back. I don't want to.
It's absolutely speculation, and but I love catering to the court of public opinion.
So let's just summarize a timeline of events. Marty Leeds makes a stream in which he speculates that perhaps Patricia Steer has been threatened with prison time because she's committed some kind of illegal violation. And that video was then taken and mirrored by David Weiss on his channel. Mark Sargent has then repeated some of these speculative comments on various social media platforms. And the prize that all three of them won was this cease and desist letter here. And now I do have the PDF. I said in my last video that Mark Sargent literally emailed it to me. He doesn't seem to be taking this very seriously. I would suggest that is not a good idea.
This whole thing, this is just to rattle your average person. If you ever get a cease and desist letter, just use it to line your birdcage. As a matter of fact, mine, just, I'm not even going to take it out of the FedEx. What's the point? Anyone wants this, by the way? You can email me. I'm Sergeant23. I'm taking offers, and by that I mean interesting trades. You got some, trade me like a samurai sword for it.
Now, one person who is taking this seriously, it would seem, is Marty Leeds. Again, this is all my opinion, but if you look on his YouTube channel, you can't find the original video. The original video that Flat Earth Dave is still mirroring on his channel here, it's gone from Marty's channel. One of the demands on the cease and desist letter, if we look down here, is to remove all online content, transcripts, written posts, and recordings of these false statements. So it would appear on the surface to anybody doing just a little bit of investigation that the person who perhaps came up with this speculative idea has now decided it would be better to remove it from the internet altogether. Now, another one of the demands on the cease and desist letter is that an apology is issued. I can't see one of those on Marty Leeds' channel. I certainly can't see one on Flat Earth Dave's channel. Of course, he still has the video up. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to see one on Mark Sargent's channel, at least if we take his word at face value.
What? That can't be done. In fact, that would make the national feed for Are You Kidding Me? Even suggesting it is unbelievable, because how would you qualify something like that? How would you qualify an apology video? How many versions of an apology video could be sent? By the way, and that's one of the things you're never, ever, ever supposed to do on the internet is apologize for anything.
Now, another interesting bullet point on the letter Mark received is this here, where he's accused of contending Robbie Davidson accepted thousands of dollars in order to allow Logan Paul and Jake Bird to attend separate Flat Earth conferences, and this is the important bit, for the sole purpose of making hit pieces against Flat Earth. Okay, so accepting thousands of dollars for the sole purpose of them making hit pieces. Now, Robbie Davidson did organize Flat Earth conferences, and they were trolled by Logan Paul and the Jimmy Kimmel team. But that is not the same as him deliberately accepting money for the sole purpose of allowing that to happen. Those two things are very different. He was a victim of trolling, but he wasn't the organizer of the trolling. He wasn't the planner of the trolling. He wasn't bribed to allow the trolling to specifically happen. He just organized the conferences which were trolled. Now, Mark Sargent received this letter and then did a stream later on, and here is how he, I'm going to say, apologized for that. Or did he double down? Let's find out.
Robbie Davidson accepted thousands of dollars from Logan Paul, one of the worst internet trolls that there is, to look the other way while he pranks the conference. It's absolute fact. Not even a question.
Now it's time for me to make some predictions. I predict that in the next couple of weeks, Marty Leeds will issue a retraction video on his channel, and it will go something along the lines of, I am sorry that I suggested that you lost money through something to do with crypto. I'm sorry that I suggested you did something illegal. I now know you didn't. And I do not believe that you were threatened into turning away from flat earth. That's just my opinion. That's all that is. That is my prediction. We'll see if I'm correct. I'll make a video in 2 weeks and we'll find out. I predict that David Weiss will leave his video up on his channel, because if he was going to take it down, I believe he would have taken it down by now. And I believe that Mark Sargent is going to continue to make the situation worse for himself.
It's not going to happen. I am going to keep talking about this moving forward. If you want to throw me in jail, please try to do it. I would love to see you try. You will turn this into a circus. And the best part about it is you're going to end up paying for it while you're doing it.
And again, in my opinion, the reason Mark is so falsely confident in this situation is because I think he is making two big misconceptions. The first one is that he won't be found to have acted with malice.
You have to prove malice, that I wanted to destroy you. I absolutely do not wish, and I have said this in how many interviews, because I got into flat earth, I will never do anything malicious to anyone ever again.
But unfortunately, using an everyday dictionary definition of malice isn't going to help you in a defamation lawsuit, when malice in that context can just be defined as a reckless disregard for the truth, which you've already admitted to when you said this.
It's absolutely speculation. And, you know, but I love catering to the court of public opinion.
And secondly, because flat earth is mentioned in the letter, he seems to think that somehow this isn't just a simple, bog standard case of defamation. He thinks it's, well, a flat earth case.
3, stating that they were pressured by authorities into renouncing flat earth beliefs. First time that flat earth is mentioned in this, by the way, which means it's a flat earth case.
And because he thinks it's a flat earth case, he seems to think that it will be almost impossible to carry this out fairly. Now, most defamation cases require just a judge and not a jury, but here he is, seemingly speculating in his own world about how this flat earth case is going to be put together and how you could possibly even begin to select a jury for it.
And, you know, one more thing before we go to break, which is, let me throw this out here. This is something for the chat room to think about. Jury selection. How in the world do you qualify a jury for that? Remember, we're uncharted territory. How do you qualify a jury for this case if you're going to do it? Who do you disqualify?
Where would this even be held? That's what
where would you even? Thank you, Randy.
Oh yeah, sorry. And thirdly, his last problem seems to be that he's involving a puppet in discussions about his legal situation. Now, since my last video, I have been contacted by a lawyer from America and a lawyer from Canada who've been very, very, very helpful in explaining the legal situation and processes over there. For example, it was from those emails I learned about some states having per se suits, civil suits that were permissible. I didn't know anything about that until they contacted me. So thank you so much. I've been corrected on some things, which I will mention in future videos. And like I said, I've been given a lot of really useful information. That information I'm still processing and getting my head around. And should Mark Sargent decide not to put a retraction video out and things escalate, I will be absolutely using that information in future videos to try and explain to certainly people in the UK over here what will happen next and what the likely outcome will be. So thank you so much for helping me. Obviously, I'm just a science teacher and I don't know anything about the law, which is probably what Mark Sargent will be thinking if he watches this video. He'll think, why should I listen to Catz whatsoever? My answer to that will be, listen, because it's just the right, nice thing to do, isn't it? Just let your former friends just drift off into the distance and live the life they want to live. Just don't be a dick would be the advice, because that's my job. Right, till next time.